The central monitoring station of the Galactic Council hummed with the quiet efficiency that had maintained peace across 3 spiral arms for millennia. Ren, a veteran observer of the Council's security division, stood frozen before his console, staring at the anomaly that shouldn't exist. "Verify scan," he whispered to his system. The holographic display pulsed once and repeated the same impossible reading. A ship had appeared in Sector 9 Gamma, the most heavily restricted zone in known space. No vessel had been permitted there for over 600 years, not since the collapse event that had nearly torn apart the fabric of reality itself. "Alert High Commander Tell," Ren said, his 4-fingered hand trembling slightly as he magnified the image. The ship's configuration was unlike anything in the Council database. Bulky, asymmetrical, and bearing no standard navigation lights or identification markers. Most concerning of all, it had somehow bypassed every single detection grid in the defense network. High Commander Tell arrived with an entourage of security analysts. Her silver-scaled skin reflected the crimson emergency lights now flashing throughout the command center. "Impossible," she declared, studying the readings. "No known technology can penetrate the quantum barriers surrounding the Forbidden Zone." The ship remained motionless, suspended at the exact coordinates where reality had nearly shattered centuries ago. No transmissions, no movement, no signs of life. "There's more," Ren said, his voice barely audible. "Material composition scan indicates primitive metals, carbon-steel alloys, aluminum, copper wiring." The command center fell silent. "Humans," Tell finally whispered. The word itself seemed to carry a mythic weight. Humans were the enigma of the galaxy, a species that had briefly appeared on the interstellar stage 3 centuries prior, made contact with 17 different civilizations, established a handful of colonies, and then vanished completely, retreating to their home system without explanation. The Council had declared their territory off-limits, respecting their apparent desire for isolation. "Impossible," one analyst muttered. "Their technology was rudimentary. They lacked even basic gravitational manipulation." "And yet," Tell said, pointing at the unmistakable silhouette on the display, "there they are, in the one place nothing should be able to reach." The strategic implications were staggering. If humans had somehow developed technology to breach the most secure region of Council space undetected, everything the galactic community understood about physics, and about humanity, was wrong. "Assemble a contact team," Tell ordered. "Priority: specialists in human biology, psychology, and linguistics, and alert the Council chambers." Ren's console chimed, drawing his attention back to the monitor. "Commander," he called out, "the ship is powering up." The vessel's energy signature fluctuated in a pattern unlike any known drive system. Tell leaned forward, her millennia of experience offering no precedent for this situation. "It's not moving," Ren reported. "But it's doing something." A pulse of energy radiated from the human vessel. Not an attack, but a signal. It washed over the monitoring station, probing, scanning, cataloging everything it touched. "They're mapping us," Tell realized. "Prepare for first contact protocols." But something in her ancient eyes betrayed her uncertainty. Humanity had been a footnote in galactic history, self-exiled and forgotten. Yet now they had done the impossible, and no one knew why. 6 hours later, the Council's premier contact vessel, the Emissary, hung in space a safe distance from the human ship. Captain Mox studied the intruder through the main viewport, his cranial ridges furrowed in concentration. "Still no response to standard greetings?" he asked his communications officer. "None, Captain," replied Vela, her crystalline hands dancing across the controls. "We've transmitted in all documented human languages and standard mathematical sequences." The human vessel remained enigmatic, a dark, angular shape against the shimmering backdrop of the quantum barrier that surrounded the Forbidden Zone. Sensors continued to provide contradictory information. The ship's hull appeared to be constructed from materials that would disintegrate during standard faster-than-light travel. Yet here it was, deep in Council space. "Recommendations?" Mox asked his assembled crew. Science Officer Pax cleared his throat. "The vessel shows no weapon signatures. We can detect. Its power output is minimal. I believe we could safely approach closer." "The Council explicitly ordered caution," countered Security Chief Dorn. Humans were known for unpredictability, even when they were part of the galactic community. Mox considered both viewpoints. The mystery of the human ship's appearance was compounded by its location. The Forbidden Zone contained the remains of an ancient experiment gone catastrophically wrong, an attempt by a long-extinct species to create a shortcut through space-time that had instead torn a wound in reality itself. The Council had quarantined the region, establishing the quantum barrier to contain the damage and prevent further degradation. We need answers, Mox decided. Prepare a shuttle. I'll lead a closer reconnaissance. 20 minutes later, Mox piloted the small craft toward the human vessel, accompanied by Pax and a nervous xenolinguist named Trill. As they approached, the true scale of the human ship became apparent. It was massive, easily 3 times the size of the emissary, yet crude by Council standards. "Captain," Pax said suddenly, "I'm detecting organic life signs." "Humans?" Mox asked. "Impossible to confirm at this distance, but the patterns match archived human biometrics." The shuttle glided closer. Now they could see peculiar markings on the hull, symbols painted in white against the dark metal. Trill leaned forward, eyes wide. "Those are human numerical designations," she whispered. "And a name. They named their ship Odyssey." "A reference to ancient human mythology," Pax noted. "A long journey home." Mox felt a chill along his spine ridges. Home? They're hundreds of light years from Earth. Before anyone could respond, their shuttle's systems flickered. A low hum filled the cabin as an external signal overrode their communications array. "Unknown vessel," came a voice, speaking perfect Council standard. "This is Captain Anna Reed of the Earthship Odyssey. We request assistance and safe passage." The 3 Council representatives exchanged stunned glances. "How do they know our language?" Trill whispered. "We are responding to your hail, Odyssey," Mox replied carefully. "Please explain your presence in restricted space." A moment of silence followed before the human voice returned, now carrying a hint of confusion. "Restricted? We didn't intend to violate your territory. Our navigational systems indicate this is unclaimed space." Mox studied the looming hull of the Odyssey through the viewport. "Captain Reed, you have entered the most heavily restricted zone in Council space. We must understand how you breached the quantum barrier." Another pause. Longer this time. "Quantum barrier?" Reed's voice carried genuine bewilderment. "We detected no barriers. From our perspective, we simply arrived." Captain Anna Reed stood on the Odyssey's bridge, her knuckles white as she gripped the edge of the command console. The alien delegation had requested permission to come aboard, and she had granted it, against the strenuous objections of her security chief. "We're not in a position to refuse," she had explained. "We need to understand what's happened." The ship's senior officers had assembled in the conference room adjacent to the bridge. Through the viewport, they could see the elegant, silvery shuttle of the aliens, the Galactic Council representatives they called themselves, docking with their airlock. "Transmit our first contact protocols again," Reed ordered her communications officer. "Make sure they understand our environmental requirements are non-negotiable." Dr. Elias Park, the ship's chief scientist, approached her with a tablet displaying a complex series of calculations. "Captain, I've been analyzing their transmissions against our navigational data. Whatever they're calling a quantum barrier doesn't match any phenomena we've observed." Reed nodded grimly. "Either they're lying, or we're experiencing some kind of fundamental perceptual disconnect. Or," Park added quietly, "we're not where, or when, we think we are." The door hissed open, and Security Chief Tomas escorted the 3 alien visitors into the conference room. Reed had seen countless alien species in simulations during her training, but nothing prepared her for the reality of these beings. One tall and slender with ridged features, another with crystalline appendages that caught the light, and a third, whose skin seemed to shift colors with each movement. "Welcome aboard the Odyssey," Reed said, stepping forward. "I'm Captain Anna Reed." The tallest alien inclined his head. "I am Captain Mox of the Galactic Council vessel Emissary. These are my officers, Science Specialist Pax and Xenolinguist Trill." After formal introductions, They seated themselves around the conference table. Reed noted how the aliens studied everything in the room with intense curiosity. "Your ship is not what we expected," Mox said carefully. "In what way?" Reed asked. "Its construction, your propulsion systems. By Council standards, they're—" He seemed to search for a diplomatic word. Archaic. Park leaned forward. "Our ship represents the pinnacle of human engineering. The Odyssey is the first vessel equipped with our experimental fold drive." The aliens exchanged glances, clearly communicating something silently between themselves. "Humans have been absent from galactic affairs for 3 centuries, Trill said. "The Council assumed your species had chosen isolation." Reed's brow furrowed. 3 centuries? The Odyssey is humanity's first attempt at interstellar travel. "We launched 6 months ago." A heavy silence fell over the room. "That's impossible," Pax finally said. "Humans established colonies on 17 worlds before withdrawing to their home system in the year 7429 Council Standard, 312 years ago." Reed felt a chill run down her spine. "According to our calendar, the year is 2157. Common Era. Humanity has never established colonies beyond our solar system." The aliens conferred quietly among themselves before Mox turned back to Reed. "Captain," he said gravely, "I believe we may be facing a temporal spatial anomaly of unprecedented scale. Your ship appears to have traveled not only through space, but through time, and possibly across realities." Reed felt the weight of his words sink in. The fold drive was designed to bend space-time, creating a shortcut between distant points. But if Mox was correct, they had done something far more profound, and far more dangerous. "The Forbidden Zone," Park whispered, comprehension dawning. "It's some kind of interdimensional nexus. It is the site of a catastrophic experiment that nearly destroyed this region of space," Mox confirmed. "And somehow, your ship has appeared at its exact center." The next 12 hours aboard the Odyssey were a whirlwind of activity. Captain Reed had authorized a joint Human Council investigation team to examine the fold drive while maintaining critical security protocols around Earth's most advanced technology. Dr. Park led Pax through the engineering section, explaining the fundamental principles of the experimental propulsion system. "The fold drive creates a localized distortion in spacetime," Park explained, gesturing to the massive cylindrical structure that dominated the engine room. "Rather than moving through space conventionally, we fold the fabric of reality, bringing our destination to us." Pax studied the device with undisguised amazement. "This technology shouldn't work," he said bluntly. "At least not according to our understanding of physics." "And yet, here we are," Park replied with a wry smile. Meanwhile, in the ship's data center, Reed and Mox compared historical records, searching for the point where their timelines diverged. "According to our history," Reed explained, "humanity developed spaceflight in the mid-20th century, established a permanent presence on our moon and Mars in the 21st century, and launched our first interstellar mission, this ship, in 2156. Mox nodded slowly. "In our records, humans achieved interstellar travel in what would be your year 2089, made first contact with the Arcadian Collective in 2094, and joined the Galactic Council in 2120. By 2157, humans had established colonies on 17 worlds. And then we just disappeared?" Reed asked incredulously. "Without explanation," Mox confirmed. "Earth and all human colonies enacted complete isolation protocols within a single standard day. No transmissions, no trade, no diplomatic contact. The Council respected your species' apparent desire for privacy." Reed shook her head in disbelief. "That makes no sense. Why would we do that?" Before Mox could answer, the ship's intercom activated. "Captain Reed to engineering, urgent," came Park's voice, tight with excitement. When Reed and Mox arrived, they found Park and Pax huddled over a complex holographic display showing the quantum structure of the Forbidden Zone. "We figured it out," Park announced. "The fold drive didn't just bend space, it punctured through to a parallel reality." Reed stared at the swirling patterns on the display. "You're saying we're in an alternate universe?" "Not exactly," Pax interjected. "The fold drive interacted with the already damaged space-time in this region. You didn't cross between universes so much as merge them." The implications are staggering, Park continued. When we activated the fold drive, we created a quantum entanglement between two different timelines of human development. And the Forbidden Zone? Reed asked. It's the same location where the original disaster occurred, Pax explained. But in your reality, that event never happened. The coordinates were simply empty space. Reed felt a creeping dread. Can we return to our own timeline? Park and Pax exchanged glances. That's the problem, Park said slowly. The fold drive created a bridge, and now that bridge is stabilizing. The two realities are bleeding into each other. The council must be informed immediately, Mox said, his voice grave. If this process continues, both of our realities could collapse. Reed's communicator chirped. Captain, came the tense voice of her first officer. We're detecting multiple ships approaching at high speed. They're not responding to hails. The council warships emerged from superluminal travel in perfect formation. 12 sleek, predatory vessels bristling with weapon systems. They surrounded the Odyssey and the significantly smaller emissary in a precise geometric pattern designed to prevent escape. On the Odyssey's bridge, Reed watched the tactical display with growing apprehension. So much for diplomatic solutions, she muttered. Captain Mox, explain yourself, came a harsh voice over the communication system. The main screen activated to reveal a severe-looking alien with silvery scales and cold, calculating eyes. High Commander Tell, Mox responded, standing at attention, beside Reed. I've established peaceful contact with the human vessel. They pose no threat. That determination is not yours to make, Tell replied. The Council has declared this an Omega-level security event. You will withdraw your team immediately. Reed stepped forward. High Commander, I'm Captain Anna Reed of the Earth vessel Odyssey. We came here accidentally and seek only to return home. Tell's eyes narrowed. An impossibility. Our sensors confirm your vessel has created a dangerous nexus between realities. The instability is growing. Park approached the communications panel. High Commander, I'm Dr. Elias Park, Chief Scientist. We believe we can reverse the process and seal the breach, but we need time and cooperation. Science Officer Pax confirms this assessment, Mox added quickly. Tell was unmoved. The Council has reviewed all available data and reached a different conclusion. The anomaly cannot be safely closed while the human vessel remains intact. Prepare to be boarded. Your crew will be evacuated before we neutralize the ship. Reed felt ice in her veins. You're planning to destroy the Odyssey? It is regrettable, but necessary, Tell replied coolly. The needs of the entire galaxy outweigh those of a single ship. The communication terminated abruptly. Reed turned to her bridge crew, seeing the fear in their eyes, but also determination. Options? She asked crisply. Her tactical officer, Lieutenant Brock, studied the sensor readings. Their technology far exceeds ours, Captain. In a direct confrontation, we wouldn't stand a chance. We could attempt to reactivate the fold drive, Park suggested. It might allow us to escape, but it could accelerate the reality breach, Reed finished, potentially destroying both our universes. Mox stepped forward. Captain Reed, there is another possibility. My people have studied the Forbidden Zone for centuries. There are protocols for containing dimensional breaches. Emergency measures never implemented because they require sacrifice. What kind of sacrifice? Reed asked warily. A conscious mind must guide the sealing process from within the breach itself, Mox explained. The consciousness becomes the keystone that separates the realities. A heavy silence fell over the bridge. Whoever does this, Reed said slowly, would be trapped between realities forever. Mox nodded solemnly. It would require someone who understands both the fold drive and the quantum physics of this region. All eyes turned to Park. I'll do it, he said without hesitation. Reed started to object, but Park held up his hand. It's the only way to save both crews, both universes, and it's fitting that the designer of the fold drive should be the one to close the door it opened. Outside, the council ships tightened their formation. Warning shots flashed across the Odyssey's bow. We don't have much time, Mox warned. Reed looked at her old friend, tears threatening at the corners of her eyes. Elias, I know, he said with a gentle smile. Tell my family I found something amazing out here. something worth everything. As battleship sirens blared and final warnings came through the communication system, Park and Mox raced to engineering, to prepare the desperate gambit that might save two universes, at the cost of one brilliant human mind. In the Odyssey's engineering bay, organized chaos reigned. Park worked feverishly at the Fold Drive's main console while Mox relayed instructions to his own ship. The Council warships had given them a final ultimatum: surrender within 30 minutes or be destroyed. The Fold Drive was never designed for this, Park muttered, fingers flying across the controls. We're essentially creating a controlled implosion of space-time. Reed stood beside him, having refused to remain on the bridge. Walk me through it one more time. Park nodded without looking up from his work. We'll initiate a cascading fold sequence, but instead of creating a path for the ship, I'll invert the field to collapse the breach between our realities. At the critical moment, I'll enter the fold chamber and become the anchor point. And you're certain there's no other way? Reed asked, her voice barely steady. The breach requires conscious intention to seal properly, Mox explained gently. The mind forms a quantum pattern that acts as a lock between dimensions. Park finally looked up, his eyes meeting Reed's. Anna, this is bigger than any of us. 2 entire universes are at stake. Outside, the Council ships began powering up their weapons systems. On the comlink, High Commander Tell's voice was cold and final. 20 minutes remaining. Your continued resistance is futile. Reed squared her shoulders. How can I help? For the next 15 minutes, the three of them worked in perfect coordination. Park reconfiguring the Fold Drive, Mox calculating the precise quantum harmonics needed, and Reed rerouting the ship's power systems to support the unprecedented energy demands. 5 minutes to weapons range, came the tense voice of Lieutenant Brock from the bridge. Park checked his final calculations. It's ready, but once we start, there's no stopping the sequence. Reed nodded grimly. Lieutenant Brock, transmit to all Council vessels. Stand down. We are implementing emergency containment protocols. High Commander Tell's face appeared on the screen. What containment protocols? This is a deception. Mox stepped forward. Commander, the humans have adapted their technology to create a dimensional seal. I'm transmitting the quantum calculations now. Tell studied something off-screen, her expression shifting from skepticism to surprise. These readings, they match theoretical models for breach containment. We need 3 minutes, Reed insisted. That's all we ask. After a long moment, Tell nodded curtly. Proceed, but be aware our weapons remain targeted on your vessel. Park activated the initial sequence. The Fold Drive hummed to life, its massive cylindrical chamber glowing with an otherworldly blue light. The ship shuddered as energy began to build. The breach is responding, Mox reported, watching the readings. The realities are beginning to separate. Park removed his uniform jacket and handed Reed a small data chip. My research notes. Everything I've learned about the Fold Drive and this situation. It might help prevent this from happening again. Reed took the chip, then impulsively pulled Park into a tight embrace. The Odyssey was supposed to be mankind's greatest achievement, she whispered. It still is, Park replied with a sad smile. Just not in the way we expected. The Fold Drive's hum rose to a crescendo. Warning lights flashed throughout the engineering bay. 30 seconds to critical threshold, Mox announced. Park turned to the Fold Chamber's entrance. That's my cue. Elias, Reed called after him. Humanity won't forget this. He paused at the door. Make sure they understand what happened. Make sure this was worth it. Then he was gone, disappearing into the blinding light of the chamber. Mox pulled Reed back as the energy levels spiked dangerously. On the view screens, they could see the space around the Odyssey beginning to ripple and fold. The quantum breach, invisible before, now manifested as a swirling vortex of energy that encompassed the ship. It's working, Mox breathed. The realities are stabilizing. Reed watched in awe as the Fold Drive pulsed one final time before falling silent. The ship's systems normalized, and the view screens showed only the stars and the waiting Council vessels. The breach is sealed, Mox confirmed quietly. Reed closed her eyes briefly. And Dr. Park? Mox's expression was solemn. His consciousness exists now as the keystone between realities. Not alive, not dead, but eternal. 3 months later, Captain Reed stood before the assembled members of the Galactic Council, the Grand Chamber's acoustics carrying her voice to representatives of over 200 species. The Odyssey hung in high orbit above the Council homeworld, now a living museum and permanent diplomatic mission from humanity. Distinguished members of the Council, Reed began. I come before you today not only as captain of the Odyssey, but as the appointed ambassador of Earth and all humankind. The chamber was silent, every being present keenly aware of the historical significance of this moment. 3 months ago, an accident of science brought our vessel to your reality. What could have ended in catastrophe instead became the foundation for understanding between our worlds. High Commander Tell, now standing as Reed's foremost ally in the Council, nodded respectfully from her position near the central podium. The sacrifice of Dr. Elias Park prevented the collapse of 2 universes, Reed continued. In doing so, he embodied the highest ideals of both humanity and the Council, the willingness to place the greater good above personal survival. On a massive holographic display behind her, technical schematics appeared, modified versions of the full drive technology, now redesigned to safely navigate between the previously separate realities. Today, I am authorized to present humanity's gift to the Council, the complete specifications for controlled dimensional transit. With proper safeguards, our realities need no longer be separate. What began as an accident has become a door to unlimited possibility. Murmurs of amazement rippled through the chamber. The technology represented the most significant advancement in interstellar travel since the discovery of faster-than-light propulsion. Furthermore, Reed added, I bring formal greetings from the human government of our reality and their proposal for a treaty of alliance and mutual defense. A wave of excitement swept through the chamber. In 3 short months, humanity had gone from dimensional intruders to potential allies bringing revolutionary technology. The Council accepts this historic offer, announced the High Chancellor, the most senior official of the entire galactic community. Let this day mark the beginning of a new era of cooperation between our peoples. As the chamber erupted in applause, Reed allowed herself a moment of reflection. The cost had been immeasurable. Park's sacrifice, the trauma to her crew, the knowledge that they could never return to their original reality. Yet something remarkable had emerged from tragedy. Later, as the formal ceremonies concluded, Reed stood alone on an observation deck overlooking the spectacular ringed planet that served as the Council's capital. Tell joined her silently. You know, Reed said after a moment, in our reality's history, there's an ancient Greek myth about a man named Prometheus. He stole fire from the gods and gave it to humanity, forever changing their destiny. Tell nodded. We have studied your myths. Prometheus was punished for his gift, was he not? Eternally, Reed acknowledged. But humanity never forgot his sacrifice. She turned to face the High Commander. That's why we've named the dimensional passage the Park Corridor, so that neither of our realities ever forgets. Tell's expression softened. The quantum readings at the seal point are fascinating. Some of our scientists believe that Dr. Park's consciousness still exists there, perhaps even aware in some form. Reed smiled sadly. I'd like to think so. That somewhere, somehow, he knows what his sacrifice achieved. As they spoke, a small ceremony was taking place in the newly established Park Memorial Observatory, at the exact coordinates where the Odyssey had appeared. There, the first official transit between the 2 realities was underway, a joint scientific mission that would explore the unique properties of the dimensional boundary. Your people are remarkable, Captain Reed, Tell said. In all our history, few species have adapted so quickly to such extraordinary circumstances. Reed looked out at the stars, different constellations than those she had grown up with, yet somehow now feeling like home. That's the thing about humans, she replied. We've always been at our best when facing the impossible. In the distance, the first ships of the new joint fleet were visible, council vessels and human craft flying in formation, a sight that would have been unimaginable just months before. And at the center of it all, unseen but ever present, the consciousness of Elias Park remained, a human mind bridging 2 universes. ensuring that what began as trespass had become perhaps the greatest discovery in the history of either reality. The impossible ship that had appeared in a forbidden zone had changed everything, not through power or technology, but through the most human quality of all, the willingness to sacrifice for others, even those from a reality not one's own. The end.